finally Earth.
It was January 20th in the year 1971 that Marvin Gaye released What's Going On. In addition to being a massive hit, the song marked a turning point in Marvin Gaye's career and in the trajectory of Motown. Gaye achieved popularity in the 1960s with songs like How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You and I Heard It Through the Grapevine. Prime examples of the Motown sound, which blended soul, rock, and pop, and is often credited with a leading role in the racial integration of popular music in America. Marvin Gaye's record label, Tamla, was an imprint of Motown Records, and as such, Gaye's work was guided and supervised by legendary Motown founder Berry Gordy. Gaye's early music, like that of many Motown artists, was innovative and increasingly sensual, but hardly political. What's Going On originated with Renaldo Obi Benson, a member of the Motown group The Four Tops, who penned an early version after witnessing police violence against anti-Vietnam War protesters in Berkeley, California. Benson took the song to Marvin Gaye, whose brother had recently returned from the war, and whose cousin had continued their eternity as a result of the conflict, and Marvin Gaye made it his own. The song's lyrics both implicitly reference the violent rifts in American society, with lyrics like "Mother, Mother, there's too many of you crying," and explicitly questions the war with lyrics like "We don't need to escalate, war is not the answer, for only love can conquer hate." These lyrics made it ripe for controversy, enough that Gordy discouraged Gaye from recording the song, saying, quote, "Don't be ridiculous. That's taking things too far," unquote. Ultimately, Marvin Gaye went on a recording strike to force Gordy to release What's Going On. Not many artists had the gumption or the clout to stand up to Gordy, and as such, the single's release foreshadowed his future disagreements with Gordy and eventual split from Motown. The single reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and will go on to be named the 4th greatest song of all time by Rolling Stone. The album, What's Going On, released the following May, was a concept album that further explored Gaye's opposition to the war as well as other sensitive topics like poverty and drug use. The song Mercy, Mercy Me, The Ecology, is one of the earliest examples of environmentalist messaging in mainstream pop music. Critics continue to rate the album and its title track among the most influential recordings in modern musical history. It was January 20th in the year 1980, in a letter to the United States Olympic Committee and a television interview, that U.S. President Jimmy Carter, our nation's 39th president, proposes that the 1980 Summer Olympics be moved from the planned host city Moscow if the Soviet Union failed to withdraw its troops from Afghanistan within a month. It's very important for the world to realize how serious a threat the Soviets' invasion of Afghanistan is, Carter declared. He argued that continued aggressive action by the Soviets would endanger athletes and spectators who traveled to Moscow for the Games, and declared that if the International Olympic Committee declined to move the competition, American athletes should boycott the Games. Lord Killallen, president of the IOC, reacted quickly to Carter's statement, saying it was impossible to move the Games from Moscow. After the IOC denied Carter's request, the USOC later voted to boycott the Moscow Games, a decision that Carter announced on March 21st in 1980. The boycott devastated the hopes of many U.S. athletes, especially after Carter backed it up with the law, promising to revoke the passports of American athletes who traveled to the Games in violation of the boycott. For his part, Killallen called the U.S. boycott a violation of the Olympic Charter, pointing out that Moscow had been awarded the Games in the mid-1970s as part of a binding contract, one that can only be broken if the Soviets breach their own responsibilities first. The U.S. was one of some 60 countries that eventually boycotted the Moscow Olympics, though some countries that didn't officially send teams took no action against individual athletes who chose to go. Among U.S. allies, Great Britain, Sweden, France, and Italy sent teams. The Soviet Union dominated the other 80 participating nations, winning 195 medals, 80 gold in 1980, in one of the most lopsided Olympics ever. 4 years later, the Soviets returned the slight with a boycott of the 1984 Summer Games in Los Angeles, saying they were worried about the safety of their athletes given the strongly anti-communist environment that existed in the U.S. In an interesting contrast, communist-led China decided to attend the Games for the first time in 32 years, bringing the total number of participating countries to a record high of 140. It was January 20th in the year 1993 that one of America's most beloved actresses, Audrey Hepburn, continued her eternity. Graduating to the eternity near her home in Lausanne, Switzerland, the 63-year-old Hepburn had undergone surgery for colon cancer the previous November. The daughter of an aristocratic Dutch mother and an English businessman father, Hepburn was born in Brussels, Belgium, and educated mostly in England. During World War II, the young Audrey and her mother were in the Netherlands when the Nazis invaded the country. The war left a permanent mark on Hepburn's family. An uncle and a cousin were executed, and one of her brothers was interned in a Nazi labor camp. At war's end, Hepburn was finally able to return to England, where she modeled and began landing parts in movies as a chorus girl and dancer. While shooting one of these films in Monaco, the lithe and graceful Hepburn was spotted by the French author Colette, who recommended her for the starring role in the upcoming theatrical adaptation of her novel, Gigi. Gigi opened in November of 1951 at New York City's Fulton Theater, and Hepburn received glowing reviews for her performance. Impressed with her screen test, the director William Wyler held production on his film Roman Holiday, while Hepburn finished her run on Broadway. That girl, Wyler is said to have remarked after filming was completed, is going to be the biggest star in Hollywood. After the release of Roman Holiday in 1953, his prediction seemed well on its way to coming true. Hepburn won an Academy Award for Best Actress for her role as a princess on the loose in Rome who falls in love with a journalist, Gregory Peck. The same year, she won a Tony Award for her starring turn in Broadway's Ondine. Slim, elegant, and unfailingly stylish, Hepburn turned the image of the bosomy blonde Hollywood starlet on its head, presenting a new ideal of beauty for millions of moviegoers. In Sabrina of 1954, Funny Face of 1957, and Love in the Afternoon of 1957, she matched off with Hollywood's leading men, William Holden and Humphrey Bogart, Fred Astaire and Gary Cooper, respectively. Hepburn's embodiment of Holly Golightly, the ultimate free spirit in Breakfast at Tiffany's, 1961, was one of her most enduringly popular roles, and earned her a fourth Oscar nomination for Best Actress. She was also nominated for Sabrina in 1959's A Nun's Story. In 1964, controversy flared when Hepburn was chosen to play Eliza Doolittle in the film version of the musical My Fair Lady, beating out Julie Andrews, who had originated in the role on Broadway. Playing opposite Rex Harrison, Hepburn acquitted herself well, although her singing was dubbed by Marni Nixon. In 1967, Hepburn got her fifth Academy Award nomination for her performance as a blind woman whose house is burglarized in Wait Until Dark. Soon after that, she left full-time acting and lived mostly in Switzerland, appearing infrequently in movies that were both praised and panned. Married to the actor Mel Ferrer in 1954, Hepburn had 2 sons with him before they divorced in 1968. The following year, she married Andrea Doty, an Italian psychiatrist with whom she had 1 son. They later divorced, and she began a relationship with Robert Wolders, a Dutch actor, in 1980. Audrey Hepburn's most significant work over the last 2 decades of her life was not captured on film. Named a special ambassador for UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, in 1988, Hepburn traveled extensively raising money and awareness for the organization. Her UNICEF field trips spanned the globe, from Guatemala, Honduras, Venezuela, and El Salvador to Turkey, Thailand, Bangladesh, and Sudan. In addition to field work, Hepburn was an eloquent public voice for the organization, testifying before the U.S. Congress, participating in the World Summit for Children, and giving numerous speeches and interviews about UNICEF's work. In 1992, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Even after she was diagnosed with cancer, Hepburn continued her travel and work for UNICEF. Mourned by countless fans, she was posthumously given the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award at the 1993 Academy Awards, which her son accepted on her behalf. In her last screen appearance, Steven Spielberg's Always of 1989, Hepburn played an angel, guiding the movie's protagonist to heaven, and the role served as a fitting reflection of the screen goddess's public image during the last years of her life on this planet. The historic information divulged on this audio file can be verified on History.com.